So today we're working on 1010, and last time I did not have the animations working, so when we played the game we were refactoring the block, the grid itself, and the grid that's used to create all the blocks you see on the screen. And in that refactor we broke the animations. So you see the animation just played. And so now I have them fixed. And so before we continue, I'll quickly show you how I fixed that. So the way the animations work in this game is when the game state game board has a mask for scoring and a mask for bonus that say which pieces, if any, are scoring pieces and which pieces, if any, are bonus pieces. And so before we pass our information to the grid component, the grid 2D component, which is what displays this, not only this grid but also the pieces themselves are on grids. We go and select one of these. Grid 2D, you can see it's a custom element, and so each of these grids as a single component is concerned with displaying some number of blocks. It's just to display a grid, and so I wanted to keep it to that functionality as much as possible. So just displaying a grid, which means it should not know or care what it's displaying internally. And so during the refactor we switched from where it had specialized knowledge of classes and could apply and remove classes for different colors and effects. We took that specialized knowledge out, and we realized we didn't need a lot of that, and we're simply using the content we want in there now. So like the little emoji, or the ones that are letters would be letters. Go here and say it's the letter S. And so in that simplification, we also broke our animation, because all the animation was driven by placing these start animation classes on things, so that the animation system could pick them up and do whatever it wanted to do with it as a side effect, and not have to worry about it in our state. And so to fix it was pretty easy, because we refactored. So here's the grid 2D. So here's the entire thing now. The entire thing is only 58 lines, including all the imports, right? So if we don't look at our imports, you could almost fit the whole thing on one page, almost, like an extra 3 lines. And that's because of my comments. So, it's a HTML element, like a div element, and it uses lighter HTML to render, which is this right here. And all it does is it gets a property called grid, and if it has that property that's been attached to it, it will go ahead and render that 2D grid. And whatever the content is inside that grid, it just uses that as the child. So you can pass in a string, or to make our animations work, we pass in a div that has all those animation class stuff that we want. We just pass in a whole element, and because this is lighter HTML, see this little HTML tag here, that means even though I wrote it as a string, it's really a HTML element, not a string. It's not like an inner HTML string. Lighter HTML is awesome. Highly recommend it. And so yeah, and because of that, ta-da, it all works. So that's pretty cool, and that made that fix really easy. Being able to do that. And so now let's go on to the next bug. So the next bug isn't actually on the screen. I need to be on the end game screen for the next bug. So I'm just gonna lose this game. There you go. Cool. And so here was the block picker screen. And so our bug now is, we want to click that, and we should open up the the emoji picker where you can pick whatever kind of emoji you want, and instead we get this property style blah 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 because it wants to use the input and we got rid of it. So let's go ahead and fix this. So this isn't in our render, this isn't in our grid. What this is actually in the component picker theme. And this is using the old list color stuff. And we got rid of that. Let's see, okay. So our render, then it just renders the pieces. Okay. So then if it was a click, okay. So here, what I want is instead of, so here I was going, okay, if it's an input, let's call the change emoji function to update the emoji to whatever the new value is. So I'll need to keep doing this part, right? The change emoji, but it's all the other stuff. Because I don't have an input, I'm not going to have an input anymore. I'm not going to use that at all. So really, we just need, actually, we don't even need a toggle, we just need to open the emoji picker. So yeah, actually, we may be able to just, we may not even need to call change emoji here at all. So here I'm using a dispatcher. But may not even need to do that in this piece at all. May do that, actually, that makes more sense. Why would the theme picker have a change emoji? It would be the emoji picker. So cool. So now when you click, doesn't matter where you click on, does it? Yeah, we're just listening for you to click on anything in this component. And there's no, we don't have those anymore, so it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to comment that out because we'll need it later. Same with this. We'll need it later. And then just to make sure everything still runs. Console. Cool. Yay. Okay, so now we need an emoji picker. So let's make that component. So here, so we have the emoji picker emoji. That's what we want. So yeah, what we need to do is, instead of so what we could do, there's a couple things we could do here, right? Because we are, okay, actually, so what no, because I want the click to happen on these guys so I can know which one you clicked on, right? And then he, actually, if there's, because I'm like, should they be siblings or not? Because like I can have him, right? I didn't realize that they're still allies. there's a couple things I could do. I have a cold, so sorry if I'm sniffling a lot. So there's a couple things I could do here, right? So if I were doing, what I could do is, here I'm going and here. So option one. So what I could do is I could do render the emoji picker or render the piece list kind of thing. So when you click to open, I would set a flag in this component that would then say, okay, instead of rendering piece, instead of render piece, you would render emoji. But the problem with that is look what I'm mapping over, right? I'm mapping over the number of the existing pieces, right? So 6. And really I'd need this to loop over everything. Now that isn't all the emoji. Now that isn't to say I couldn't do that here. I could do an if and map over this one with render piece, or render over a different list with render emoji. And that seems like the most straightforward way to handle this problem. I was originally, I had this emoji picker thing out here, but maybe we don't need it. Maybe we can just do it all right here in theme picker. And we can always break it out later, refactor it out if it proves to be an issue. It's one of the great things about code is you can always refactor later. A lot of people forget that and either don't refactor or try to do all the refactoring right away. But if we stay simple and stay as simple as possible, and so I was going to break this out, and I'm even set up to break it out, but it doesn't appear to lean that way, and I don't have any like real pressing need that says it needs to be broken out. So we're not. And I may be wrong later. I may go, oh, that was a terrible idea, and I'll break it out. But that's the great thing is I'll be able to do that, and I'll be able to do it pretty easily because of a few ways we write code. So let's do it, y'all. I don't know that I'll need index. He'll just get it. Okay. So that mounts stat is showing emoji list is false. That's a terrible name, but that's okay. All names start terrible. They get better over time as we gain understanding. Here we can return, and so we need a list, right? A list of all the emojis possible. Forgive me, because this will be terrible. Like, there's just, I'm sure I can get this list somewhere. Or I can generate it. Oh, yeah. Let's generate an emoji list. That seems like the easiest way, because then I'll get whatever the system supports, and it will definitely be their emoji. I mean, I know later in the future I may have to switch these with images, but so you may go, how do we how could we get a character list? So we'll do this. We'll do that from character code. So if I say like 95, right? So if we go for I equals, I'll just start with 0 and let's go to 200. So let's set 200. I plus I, and then a string from char code. I. And there you go. So like that. So these are all like, now some of these aren't printable, as you can see. Like look at all these. These are non-printable characters. But what are the codes for emoji, right? Let's find that out. Let's do an emoji. Cool. Cool. So we got an emoji here, right? What's your char code? Char code at. There we go. So one of the interesting things to note here is that emojis are not a single character. So go string from char code, right? And let's do this. Let's do this. Actually, here, the first one. We get that, right? And if we do the second one, then we get our smiley. And you'd be going, what if I change that? Oh, that's the Stonehenge guy. The smiley. What if we change that? Invalid, right? So there's some interesting combinations here. You know, we have this wonderful thing called the internet. And so, the full Unicode emoji list and the code for each, what it looks like in each one, what it's called. That's not quite what I want. Oh, okay, let's try. It says the code here is 1F600. Let's try that. Next 1F600. No, that's, maybe there's another translation I need there. Emojipedia? You know, you would have thought I would have looked this up by now, but I really haven't. No, it's just emoticons. Okay, here we go. Maybe Unicode standard. Well, this isn't as helpful as I had hoped, but we can still figure out what we want. Because we know Smiley 1. What is Smiley 2, right? I didn't expect the egghead. I didn't expect Stonehenge. I expected Smiley 2. And so it's still at 55357 56. Oh, I'm doing the same one again. I'm dumb. No, there's two. Oh no, there's big eyes and little eyes, but grinning face with mouth wide open, straight squinting eyes. Maybe I just can't tell the difference. Haircut at. And so string code. Yeah, so we got the 5, 6. Oh, okay, so the other one's 3, 2. 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 3, 5, 3, 6, 7, 3, 8. So yeah, you can see 4. Ooh, 4's double. 4, 1 winky. So we can see all sorts of the character codes here. That's awesome. And so yeah, we could use this. They go in order, so we could pick some starting values and just build a list of emojis this way. It wouldn't be every character possible. And it could give us a bit more control over the way the list looks. Let's try some other emojis, huh? I'm actually curious of something more complicated, like the people ones. The people ones seem to be more complicated, so woman health worker, let's go with that. Oh, look at that. So my browser can't even do that one. Okay, let's just try. It's not red, that's orange. Okay, let's try that. Cool. So then we go. Care code. Oh no. Care code at 0, right? And so are all the emojis in that index? And we have that one. So then we just keep going. Yeah. Huh. It's not quite what I expected. But we can totally work with that. Yeah. So it looks like we have 32, 6. I wonder how low we can get. Oh, it's clapping hands. No. 6, okay. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we can go crown, cactus. Oops. Glasses, shirt. Interesting. Six, 7, 8, 9. So not everything works. Yeah. That leaves us with options of generating a list or just manually putting on a list of ones we support and they can use. And it's an interesting problem because when I just use the keyboard, I didn't have to worry about it at all. We just let the browser and native do it. Here I could do a set of like ranges and be like, okay, all the letters between these ranges and I'm just not sure. So, if you're not sure what do, you should do the easiest. That way you just get moving, right? Because you can always update it later. You can always improve. You can always build later. It's much harder to cut than it is to build. And so, we do all the emoji. I definitely want, there's a lot here. There's enough here that I don't want to go do all of this one by hand. But I think if there are some ranges that work, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 65. So, there's a lot here I'd like to use though. Pretty much everything until, all of this. I want to use all of this. And all the sports, all the cars, and all the objects. Even the symbols. And here's where we can I don't want flags. Everything except flags I want. No, I want flags too. I want it all. So, there's no way in hell I'm going to do that one by one. So, we're going to have to make a generator to generate all of them and stick them into a list. We can even categorize it like this. We can be like different types. I don't know, smileys and people, animals. Yeah, we can just use those. And so we will want to make a okay. So this little picker, it looks like it's got grouping. Actually, it would be cool if it worked like this, right? We could see this and you go click, and you could click, and get that. And this just be a big scroll. So we will do it as a separate component, not just inline. Right, so this will become something like so we'll want something like that instead. And we'll have to pass into it what it needs to be able to call back to us. Well, actually, if we know, we want is this? Oh yeah. Need that back. I'll need this back. Because we'll need that block index. So I'm going to close this parent. And we'll get its data block. And we want that. That's yeah. Anyway. And then when we do this, there. Nah, I mean, let's stick something in here so it doesn't just blow up on us, right? Okay, now it should at least not completely spectacularly blow up, in theory. No, it did. It totally did. What did I forget? Okay. Syntax error. What's my syntax error? Oh, the break. Yep. This run. There we go. Cool. I actually was sort of expecting this. Right? Because I took out that old one from index. And I have that event listeners. Especially for these things that were that was how I was trying to over decouple. Too hard to decouple things. And another one. Yes. that removing that div screwed my style. I can easily fix that. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That'll fix my style up. Oh, and I just realized the time, so yeah, see, my style's back. So cool. And yeah, right now clicking doesn't work on it anymore because I took out that console log that was doing that. But it should actually be doing this part. Oh, and I don't have it re-rendered, that's why. So if you were using a hook and like, if I was using a hook, or like React, these would be set state in the component, which would trigger the re-render. But because I'm not doing it, I just have to trigger it manually. There we go. Render's not defined. Woo! Sweet. And picker emoji. Oh. Haha. Because for some reason I took it off. Try that again. Console. Click. Picker's not may just been too quick. There we go. Now it's not blowing up and working like we thought. Cool. So I'm going to cut it there for today. Always remember to save your work and git push, so if your computer blows up spontaneously, you don't lose it. And so emoji, new emoji picker. So always commit and push. And thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.